Alumni board member Lexi Caffrey graduated from Brooks in 2006. A self-described mediocre athlete but phenomenal teammate, she coxswained the Brooks girls varsity 4 to its first 2 and only national championships. She was a 2-year captain and 3-year varsity coxswain, having only learned the sport her freshman year. During Lexi's 4th and 5th form years, the first boat won New England championships. She was also awarded the Courtney Crew Prize 2 seasons in a row. In addition to her contributions to the crew team, she was a 4-year member of the varsity squash team and a 6th form captain, leading them to a New England championship in that role. In the fall of her 6th form year, she also took her talents to the varsity cross-country team and helped motivate her teammates from behind. Lexi continued her student-athlete career at the University of Pennsylvania, where she was a coxswain on the varsity rowing team. She steered her boats to many cup race wins against Ivy League competition. She was excited to follow her teammates Libby Mulligan, Brooks class of 2004, and Carolyn Thomas, Brooks class of 2005, to Penn, and relive the magic of what was called the Blonde Boat. Lexi is currently a category manager at Wayfair in Boston, where she strategizes with suppliers in the upholstery business about how to increase their sales on site and how to grow the overall category. Her career has taken her through many different cities, industries, and roles, but in each area, she has relied on her abilities that she honed on the water: attention to detail, critical thinking, teamwork, and strategic decision-making. Outside of her work, Lexi is a diehard Boston sports fan. Having had the pleasure of seeing the Patriots stage the greatest comeback in NFL history at Super Bowl 51, and more recently, the Red Sox win the first game of the 2018 World Series at Fenway. When she is not attending sports events, she enjoys running along the Charles River, where she has many fond rowing memories. She also enjoys traveling the world, often with her former Brooks and Penn teammates. We are fortunate to have Lexi here with us today. Please join me in welcoming her.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm extremely honored, as this was always one of my favorite chapels as a student, and it meant even more to me once I was accepted to Penn. For the seniors who are sitting in their 4th Kippy Little Chapel, you'll note I'm not the most accomplished athlete that has ever spoken on this day, but I have a very strong bond with Kippy's story, having rowed at both Brooks and Penn. As Ms. Churchill noted, I was a member of the Blonde Boat, the first boat from Brooks to be crowned national champions. If you indulge me in a brief walk down memory lane, that boat was something special. Each practice on Lake Kachikowick, under the guidance of Sally Morris, we knew something felt right. And in those moments when we doubted ourselves, her smile from ear to ear reassured us that something special was happening. You see, Sally was one of the finest taskmasters I've ever met, but even she couldn't contain her excitement when she saw our splits and rhythm improving daily. Beyond having a great coach, we had a secret weapon. Elle Logan, our 2-seat and a fellow member of the class of 2006, was a future gold medal Olympian many times over and one of the most decorated rowers in U.S. history. She finished her career just recently, having won 2 national championships at the high school level, NCAAs, 3 Olympic gold medals, multiple world championships, was named the Pac-12 Rower of the Century in 2017, and was recently inducted into the Brooks School Hall of Fame. Elle was a huge contributor to our boat, but as many of you know, rowing is the ultimate team sport, and our success wouldn't have been possible without 3 other rowers, Vanessa Rathbone, Libby Mulligan, and Carolyn Thomas. I bring up that crew because it is an important part of the rich history of Brooks' crew that Kippy herself was proudly part of. I could go on and on about those races, practices, and teammates, but I'll give it a break for now, at least. As I look back at Brooks at 30 and try to put myself in your shoes, the first thought that comes to mind is, where are your blazers? Then I remember you have a cool headmaster. I'd like to agree with my parents and say that the old dress code helped prepare you for how to dress in your career, but I stand before you as an employee of Wayfair who regularly wears jeans to work. But I digress. As I sat down to think about my time at Brooks, the main thing I look back on was how much opportunity my classmates and I had, and how that has only grown since I've left. I'm certain that many before me have echoed this thought, but as some of you prepare to leave Brooks in the coming months, I want to make sure you understand the opportunity that comes with a Brooks School education. Look around the chapel at the teachers, coaches, advisors, and deans that are present. You have the opportunity to learn from and interact with these special individuals every day. They all embody the spirit of Kippy in some way. To reuse Liz O'Leary's words, she was kind and positive and generous and thoughtful. Having been fortunate enough to be a student at Brooks, you might think this is the norm. But think back to your time before Brooks. I had plenty of teachers in my prior schooling who were not available to stay after class if you were struggling and were not invested in you as a student. The teachers and coaches at Brooks are always willing to go the extra mile to see you succeed. Our crew coach, Sally Morris, would often suggest morning practice if the weather forecast called for a choppy afternoon on the lake. For those of you outside the rowing community, that may seem cruel, but she was really looking out for our best interest. She saw the potential in the boat and didn't want to waste it with a day of land practice. It didn't matter that she had to stay up late the night before grading Latin quizzes or helping her own kids with their homework. She was just as dedicated to our success as we were. Knowing the caliber of people that Brooks hires, I'm sure you have one, if not more, of these people in your life. These adults truly care about you and your development and embody everything that Kippy was. In addition to great mentors, Brooks gives you the opportunity to try new things, which is exactly how I got my start in rowing and ended up in front of you today. I'm sure there are athletes at Brooks who were part of a rowing team before coming here, but I was not one of them. I grew up around the corner in Andover, playing soccer, softball, and basketball, all to varying degrees of success. When I got to Brooks as a third former, I signed up for softball in the spring without a second thought. I had played growing up, I had decent hand-eye coordination, and my older sister had played her 4 years here. It seemed like a natural fit. But my mom had other plans. She had been exposed to rowing and was itching to get me, a 5'2", 14-year-old, involved. Back in the day, we actually had to sign up and submit a piece of paper to indicate what sports or activities we'd like to participate in. When my mom saw what I had selected, softball, she promptly informed me that I would in fact be a coxswain on the rowing team. Having little to no idea what that meant, I pushed back and asked why. To which she replied, "Because you like to sit around and tell other people what to do." Well, in my house, what Elise says goes, so the rest, as they say, is history. And now in the business world, I'm allowed to refer to that preference as delegation. I know my anecdotes have been very rowing-centric, but that's just my story. The great thing about Brooks is that there are so many opportunities to take advantage of, and the list keeps on growing. I am also proud to say that I was part of the first class to partake in the Students on the Forefront of Science and pave the way for future students on the lower North Shore of Quebec. There are so many vast opportunities at Brooks that I'd highly recommend giving anything and everything a chance. Whether it be exploring a new art installation at the Lehman, running for student government, taking a chance on a winter term class you know nothing about, or doing an international exchange. There are so many paths here that it really is up to you to choose your own adventure. So seek out that adventure while you have the opportunity. The adventure I chose led me to Philadelphia, the Schuylkill River, and the Wharton School. I got there by making use of the Brooks people that surrounded me. As I mentioned before, the infamous blonde boat was also included a rower named Libby Mulligan, who happens to be here in the back of the chapel today and is probably in the process of turning beet red. I had the opportunity to meet Libby at Brooks, steer her to a national championship, and then follow her path to the Penn rowing team. You are only as strong as the people around you, and I'm very lucky to count Libby as one of those people. She is one of the few people I will still jump in a boat for when asked, and I think I'm the only person who can get her to hike up to the Hollywood sign. The point is, Libby got recruited to Penn 2 years ahead of me and was able to vouch for me as a coxswain, a difficult position to recruit for. She got in Coach Lane's ear and wouldn't relent, ultimately giving me the opportunity to be recruited by Penn. The bond we forged as teammates is not specific to sports alone, and Libby is not the only person I met during the course of Brooks or Penn who has given me opportunities along the way. It is up to you to make the most of those opportunities in the community around you. It is important to unplug from social media and make real personal connections with those who are present. The social networks of real life are more important than what's going on in your phone. You could email, okay, I guess that's in your phone, but seriously, you could email any Brooks alum today and tell them you are interested in hearing about their alma mater or career path, and they'd be more than happy to chat, just because you have the common bond of being a Brooks student. I have done this multiple times and never been disappointed. This alumni network is a huge opportunity for you guys as you start to think about the real world. Notre Dame women's basketball head coach, Muffet McGraw, had an important quote the other night that I will steal a small piece of because I can't do the rest of it justice. You really should look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. She was speaking about the lack of women in power across corporations, politics, and sports. The piece of the quote I want to impart on you is, people hire people who look like them. While she was referring to the unfortunate trend of men in leadership roles only hiring men, I'm going to put a spin on it for the purpose of this point. People with similar backgrounds are more likely to take a chance on someone who have same shared experiences as them. And lucky for you all here today, you all will go to Brooks. The college admissions process, internships, and sought-after jobs are getting more and more competitive every day, and you need to use the resources that Brooks provides you, in this case, your vast alumni network, to get where you want to be. We in the alumni community all had the opportunity to attend such a great school, and we are eager to share our knowledge and wisdom with the current students and graduates. As an alumni board member, we are constantly thinking about how we can engage the current student body and give them even more opportunities, so don't be afraid to reach out and ask. I will wrap up today with the same theme I have been hammering away at for the last 10 minutes. I implore you to take advantage of every opportunity you have at Brooks. That's not because once you leave here, those opportunities go away. In a perfect world, they would multiply. But at Brooks, you have the luxury of doing them in a safety net, or a bubble as we used to call it. You can make mistakes or decide something is not for you and pick up and move along to the next opportunity. If coxing didn't end up being my thing, I'm sure I would have led a rowdy cheering section on the softball bench, right, Janelle? I would say my biggest regret about Brooks is not taking the opportunity to do an exchange, as the students who always did came back with such an interesting perspective. I was also initially resistant to participating in Students on the Forefront of Science program, but with the goading of my parents and teachers, I took advantage of the opportunity and ended up taking an interest in environmental science. Fast forward 5 years later, and I graduated from Wharton with a BS in economics and a concentration in environmental policy and management. A few years after that, I started my job in the DC area doing consulting for a firm on projects for the Department of Energy and EPA. I'm lucky enough to come back to this campus for alumni board meetings and various events. But despite the frequency with which I'm back here, I'm always amazed by the changes that happen in between. I'm excited to come back in a few weeks for the opening of the Arts Center. Buildings like this, and the gym during my time here, are signs of parents and alumni investing back into the school because they want the current student body to have more opportunities than they did. When I left Brooks, I left behind a top-of-the-line 16-person indoor rowing facility. My college, a well-endowed university, did not offer those facilities until 2 years after I had graduated. So in the spirit of Kippy Little, please take advantage of those new art studios, music rooms, and everything else Brooks has to offer, and make the most of everything you have here. Thank you.